This is a chocolate lover's dream cake, moist chocolate cake topped with rum-infused sour cherries, a delicious creamy filling, finished with a generous amount of rich chocolate shavings. First thing first, I'm going to separate yolks go in one bowl and the whites go in the other bowl. So in my hurry to do this, I just broke the whole egg into one bowl. No worries. If that happens, just take it in your palm and then use your finger as a strainer to strain the white. There you go. So I'm going to separate the white into one bowl and the yolks in the other bowl, and you will see in a minute why I'm doing this. So to separate, you go in between the two eggshells like this, and that will help to separate the whites from the yolks. Now I'm going to add the whites to my mixing bowl, and I'm going to beat them up until soft peaks. Next, I have here a half a cup of flour. I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Give it a stir. Add 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Give it a stir, and I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to beat up the whites. To the whites, I'm also going to add a pinch of salt and 2 tablespoons of water. And I'm going to beat them up until soft peak forms. Now I'm also heating up the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to add the sugar all at once and continue beating for about 2 minutes until it becomes stiff. The whites have become stiff, and now I'm going to add the yolks all at once. The sugar is dissolved, so I did beat them for about 2 minutes. And now I'm going to add the yolks and continue beating for about a minute, 1 minute longer. This is looking good, so I'm going to stop the machine, remove the beaters. See how nice and thick it is. Looking very good. And now I'm going to sift the flour and cocoa mixture and fold it into the eggs carefully, not to break too much the eggs. So you do this in a few additions, not all at once. And I also prepared the pan. I lined it with parchment paper. Your pan is going to be ready. The cake will be easy to remove from the pan. So see, I'm doing the sifting. See all the little pieces? I don't want them. This is done now. I'm going to place it in the pan. Oh, this is gonna be so delicious. Spread the cake batter evenly into the pan using a spatula. This metal spatula works really well. I'm going to leave the link for this spatula in the description below where you can get one. And now I'm going to add the sour cherries on top of the cake batter. The sour cherries were frozen, so I defrosted them, placed them in a jar with some sugar and some rum flavoring, and let them macerate for a couple of days. Then I strained the liquid. I used some in the syrup, and I'm scattering the sour cherries on top of the cake. The tardiness of the sour cherries blends well with the chocolate, and it's going to really work well with the sweetness of the filling that I'm going to use, which you will see in a minute. So stick with me. If you like my recipe, also remember to hit the like button And if you haven't subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you being here and watching this. I like to just tap them slightly so they kind of sink a little bit into the butter. Now it goes in preheated oven at 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes or until toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. While the cake is baking, I'm going to make the filling. I'm going to do a custard, and for that I'm going to use 2 eggs, then half a cup of sugar. I'm going to give this a whisk. I'm also going to add just a pinch of salt. Salt will cut the sweetness. 3 tablespoons of custard powder, and I'm using Bird's custard powder. So 3 tablespoons of custard powder and some flour, 2 tablespoons of flour, and whisk them together. Until all blended. My stove is not on yet. So I'm doing it here because I will turn the stove on, but it's not on yet. So this is all on cold right now. Okay? So mix the egg, the sugar, the custard powder, and the flour until all blended and looks like this. Very creamy. And now I'm going to add the milk. Meanwhile, the cake is done. Oh, and there it is. Look at that. So I baked it for 25 minutes at 350 degrees. So let's get back to our custard. I'm turning the stove on medium, and I'm going to slowly add the milk. I have 2 cups of 2% milk here. I'm gonna stir this in, and then we are going to cook this custard. And at the end, I'm going to add vanilla. Once the custard is done, I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla. So I'm going to cook this until it thickens. You have to keep stirring as it thickens. It's coming, it's coming. Look at this, beautiful. I'm going to turn the stove off, and now I'm going to add the vanilla, about a teaspoon of vanilla, and stir it in. This custard is beautiful. So this is all done. So I'm going to remove it from the heat, and I'm going to cover it with a plastic to prevent from forming skin on top. Clean the sides. So you place the plastic and you cover it tightly all the way to the on top of the custard, and press it down like this. This prevents from forming skin. If you leave it just like that, it will form a skin, so we don't want that. So cover it tightly like this and let it cool completely. Do you like the recipe so far? If you have any questions, write them in the description below, and I'm going to answer them the best I know how. We'll continue with putting together the cake. It's going to be so delicious. I removed the cake from the pan just by holding onto the parchment paper. I lifted it up and put it on this cooling rack. So right now I am beating up the whipped cream, 2 cups, half a liter of whipped cream with 1 tablespoon of icing sugar. So what do you think of the recipe so far? I would love to hear your comments down below. So now the cake has cooled, and I'm going to peel off the parchment paper. I'm going to turn it over and peel off the parchment paper. And then I'm going to put the cake back into the pan. So my pan, because I have parchment paper, it's fairly clean. And I'm going to put the cake back into the pan. I made a simple syrup, which is 1/4 cup of sugar and half a cup of water. You bring it to boil. and then you let it cool. But I also added about a quarter cup of the juice from the sour cherries. You don't need to do that, but I had some juice. I drained the sour cherries, and so I added this juice to about quarter cup. And now I'm going to add a little bit of rum flavoring. Now I'm going to brush the syrup on to my cake. The cake has cooled completely. Well, instead of brushing, you can brush it, but I don't believe in brushing so much when it comes to a nice moist cake. I just like to spoon this syrup over. So that's why I like to put it back into the pan, because you add the syrup, you don't have to worry about spilling over, right? Just spoon the syrup on top of the cake. I'm going to leave the ingredients in the description below. And feel free to leave me a comment, and if you have any questions, by all means, ask away, and I will answer them. Let it sit here a little bit, so the syrup is going to penetrate the cake. The custard has cooled completely, so you just remove the plastic. Look how clean it comes off. And there is no skin on top of this, so that's why it's important to cover it well with plastic. And now I'm going to take my beaters at it and beat it up, just to soften it, and because right now it's so solid. Make it more creamier. Bring it back to the creamier stage. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to add the whipped cream folded into this custard. Oh, this is gonna be so delicious. Now I'm going to add it back into the bowl. So folding it in until it's all blended, all the custard is mixed in with the whipped cream. So this is done, and now I'm going to spoon it over the cake. And now I'm going to sprinkle grated chocolate. Once the cake is done, best is to refrigerate it for at least a couple of hours before serving it. And also, keep the remnants refrigerated. Hope you enjoyed this recipe, and if you did, hit the like button. It will really help my channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.